Welcome to Shotgun Sports USA. I'm your host, Justin Barker, and I talk to shotgun shooters from all over the world in every discipline, as well as coaches, gun clubs, target setters, vendors, and industry-leading companies that fuel the sport. Check us out online at shotgunsportsusa.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Shotgun Sports USA is powered by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Also brought to you by Ultimate Shooting Accessories, Rick Hemingway's Promatic Trap Cells, Sound Gear Phantom, Comp and Choke, Clay Shooter Supply, Clay Target Vision, and Cole Gunsmithing. My guest on the show today has been in clay target sports since the beginning. He owns SportShooting Consultants, which is a company that specializes in gun club design, event target setting and management, as well as business consulting for the hunting and clay target industries. Please welcome to the show, Marty Fischer. Marty, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Justin, I am doing marvelously well on this hot summer day. I guess being from the deep south or here in South Georgia, I'm accustomed to it. But boy, it's still hot when you go outside. I just spent 3 days up around Atlanta. Had some clients fly in from California that wanted me to host them on some sporting clay stuff. Do a little teaching, not a lot of coaching, but more hosting and just having fun. And we went to the Meadows on Saturday morning. We went to Cherokee Rose Saturday afternoon, and we spent all Sunday afternoon up at Gaylon Mountain. So we bounced around Metro Atlanta and had a great time. And we put those guys on an airplane back to California this morning, and we're back home and ready for the next challenge.
Every year I say, I think it's hotter this year than it was last year. Well, after about 40 years of saying that, you'd think it was about 600 degrees every year, but I'm telling you.
It has been, the last couple of weeks have been brutal.
I'm telling you.
I mean, it is, to the point that, a lot of these competitions that are going on now, I mean, I don't feel good about any of that stuff for these guys and gals. I mean, they just Hemingway had the Junior U.S. Open over the weekend, and this past weekend, and man, it was hot, and and it's it gets dry up there, and shooters need to understand you've got to stay hydrated, and that's the tough part, because you get all caught up in shooting and not paying attention, and your diet in this heat really does matter. It keeps you sharp, to keep some fluids in you, but also to eat the right foods. I mean, this time of year, you eat anything heavy, I mean, it's going to really wear on you out there in that heat.
Yeah, if you go get you a chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A in the morning, it'll be just as warm in the afternoon as it was when you got it.
That's exactly right. I take a bunch of vitamins, and my wife always buys the gummy ones.
Yeah.
Well, if I ever leave my vitamins in the truck for some reason, I mean, it's totally melted when I go to get them. I have to peel those things off the bottom of the little container she gives me, and they're all mixed together. But no, it is hot. I mean, it's brutally hot. But we expect it. It's going to be hot, and being an old wing shooter guy like I am for so many years, I really look forward to dove season and getting into the waterfowl and all of the things that I love to do outside of the clay business.
Marty, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a gun club designer. I spent a lot of time years ago setting targets for a whole bunch of different major events, and I love doing that. But I'm I ran Cherokee Rose there in Georgia when it first opened. I was the guy that Mr. Gerald Allhorn handed the keys to, and looked at me and said, "Make it work." He said, if you need something, call me, but it's your baby, make it work. And, we put over 35,000 people through that thing in the first 2 years that I was there. And had all kind of major events and, big corporate deals and all of that, because people didn't really know that much about the sport. It was new. I mean, that was 1990. And, the first thing that I did is I said, okay, how do I get the word out? Well, I had been doing some magazine writing, and I knew a bunch of the writers, the outdoor writers. And I just called everybody and I said, I want to invite you to this place. You guys are in the media. You can call the ammo companies. They'll give you a few shells. I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of shells, but I'll give you all the targets you want to shoot as long as you bring a camera. And that's really how we got a bunch of publicity early on, and it started, bringing in people from all across the country to come see this place that Sporting Clays magazine had billed as the Disney World for shotgunners. Back that was the big headline, but that really launched me, into the target setting, the coaching, the gun club design. When I left there after a few years and went into business for myself,
right,
I formed a company called SportShooting Consultants, and that's what I did. I did gun club design. I did marketing and management consulting for the shooting industry, because having been a manager, I had a pretty good idea of what people were going to be confronted with once they got started. Because, so early on, most of the gun clubs knew were how tight can we crank up a spring and how far away can we throw one. That's pretty much what most of the target presentations were back then early on. And, I think, I started throwing a bunch of curbs and things. And Neil Chadwick, a lot of folks remember Neil, know Neil, still being out there. And Neil and I were probably the first two guys there to start doing transitional targets in this country. And, it kind of went from there. And, over the years, I've, built a bunch of clubs, really nice facilities that a lot of the listeners would know that you go to. But 6 or 7 projects underway right now, a lot of them private. But, I still do a lot of gun club design, still do as much coaching as I want to do. And, some writing. I got another book that I've written, a couple of books, one on turkey hunting, one on shooting. The one on shooting is completely sold out. It was called a Gun Digest Book of Shotgunning. I wanted to call it, If It Flies, a shooting pro's guide to better wing shooting, but the Gun Digest folks thought the shotgun name was better. But, they sold that book sold out. And, I'd like to write another one. Still doing a bunch of articles for Clay Target Nation, do some stuff for Clay Shooting USA every now and then, Shooting Sportsman, some of the other publications. So I just, I try to stay busy. I try to stay immersed in anything that is shotgun, clay target, wing shooting related. And, that's kind of my life. That's what every day is. I get up, very blessed that I can stand up and that's the business that I'm in, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. You started back in this sport, in the early 90s? Is that right?
Yeah. 1989, I was a wing shooter who got introduced to skeet shooting in 1981 at Far City Gun Club. First time I went out to shoot skeet at the gun club, frankly, it was the first time I ever stepped on a skeet field. Mm-hmm. Well, here's old Marty, walked out there with his Remington Wingmaster 870 12 gauge pump with the wrong choke, the wrong everything. And I think the first time I ever shot around a skeet, I think I broke 17 because I was a wing shooter. I mean, I was a bird shooter. I mean, that's what I did, what I still do. And I kind of fell in love with it. And the next thing I know, I've got a 4-barrel, Krieghoff skeet gun, 28-inch barrel, skeet over skeet. And, I did that, loved it, and really enjoyed it. But, I shot clays so I could smell gunpowder all through the summer waiting on dove season to start. That's really why I did it.
Yeah.
I was more of a wing shooter than I was a clay shooter. I mean, I still tell people, I'm a wing shooter that happens to be in the clay business. And my first love is birds, but don't think I don't like the clay side and all of that. I just don't compete anymore. I kind of got away from that in the early '90s, and it was just one of those things that I was in a classification that if I didn't take time to practice and shoot enough in competition, I wasn't going to be representative. So I made a determination that I wanted to make a living at this. This is what I really wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I walked away from the competition and got into the consulting and the design work and the coaching and all of that, and still doing that today after 40 years of coaching. I started coaching shooters in 1982. Even before sporting clays came to this country, and then we, once it did. Running Cherokee Rose when it first opened in 1990. That gave me a chance to do a good bit of that, and it opened a lot of other doors too for doing television and radio and all of these things.
Weren't you on the National Sporting Clays Association Advisory Council too? Back in the early 90s?
Yes, I was. 1990 through 1995, I was on that, and Justin, I'll tell you, one of the two major things that we did. The first one was we decided we were going to establish a master class.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize that when we did the first ever master class, it was set up for the top 30 shooters at the end of every season to be master. And everybody else that had worked their way up went back down to AA, and people worked their way up every year. Well, that obviously changed over time, and we know now what the master class is at major events. It's the largest of all the classes.
Right.
But the initial idea was to take the top 30 shooters every year at the end of the season and place them in that master class, and then let others shoot into it, and then redo it at the end of the season. The second thing that we did was to approve the free mount rule, because early on, sporting clays was an off-the-shoulder game, just like fit test. English sporting in America, when we started, you could not pre-mount your gun. So in the mid-90s, that got changed also. So those two things were major deals, that took place while I was a part of the advisory council, and they're still there today.
Speaking of that, what are some changes that you've seen, for better or worse, since then until now with the NSCA?
Personally, I think the NSCA has actually done really a pretty good job. I mean, I actually got off of the advisory council because when I stopped shooting competitively, I just didn't go to all of the major events all the time, and that was one of the prerequisites for being on that. You had to show up to the meetings, and we'd have a meeting at the Nationals, we'd have a meeting at the U.S. Open, and then we'd have a meeting in January. That was mandatory. You had to show up to those, and I just got to the point where I told them, I said, guys, I don't know that I can always do that. I've got other things going on, but I think what I have seen is that we've gotten the word out a little bit better. I think they're doing a better job with the youth shooting, and the ladies especially. There are more ladies and kids shooting today than ever in history, and I think NSCA has gotten behind that in a good way. I'll be very honest with you, and this is what I get for being an old man. I kind of speak my piece every now and then. But I would really like to see us find a way to adjust what we're doing with the master program and all of that. I mean, these top 25 guys are so good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're way better than they were back in the day, back when I was coming up through it. And I mean, we had great shooters, but now we've got a lot more great shooters, and that just makes it so difficult for a lot of the folks that shoot their way in the master class at smaller shoots, and then they show up at the big shoots that got 1,000 to 1,500, 2,000 people, and they're just overwhelmed. And it would be nice if we could find a way to move that around. And I've had some ideas that I've kicked around with different folks, but because it's almost impossible to handicap it, because the target setters are all different. So it's really difficult to handicap a course, and we're just not able to do that. They can do it in golf, but in sporting, it's very, very hard to do that at all of their different clubs.
Talking about setting targets, I think you told me that you set more than 175 different courses throughout North America.
I'm all over the place, tournament deals and clubs that I've designed, and a couple of those. I mean, the first course at Quail Creek, in Florida, I designed that. The first course at Greater Houston Gun Club, I designed that course. And I can go on and on and on. A bunch of these different places that I've done, but I would get invited to come set targets at different venues, and sometimes in the mountains, and sometimes on flat ground, and sometimes with a bunch of water everywhere. I mean, so there were great opportunities to have a wide variety of terrain and background and all of that to where it made me become a good target setter, because you can throw just an elementary target, and with great terrain or a great background, you can make a very simple target very difficult for people to read. And that's, you don't have to throw it far and fast. That's not necessary. If you make shooters move the gun, and I would, when I would get hired to come do a target set, I would always ask the people that hired me, what score do you want to see? What do you want to see? And they would tell me. I remember one time I did the Angleport Open, and Scott Robertson at the time was the head Angleport pro staff guy. And Scotty looked at me and he says, 175. I said, Scotty, no. Because he had all the big names coming. I said, no, we're not doing that. I said, you take 25 targets from you or McGuire or Kruger or any of those guys, you are going to annihilate everybody from A class down. I mean, you just can't do that. You guys are too good. I said, I'll give you mid 180s. How about that? And I finally talked him into it, and that's where we got. I said, I am very pleased at one thing. Whatever they've ever asked me to do, I never missed it by more than a target. Whatever, because I'll ask them. I said, who's coming? What shooters are coming? Because way back then, I knew all of those guys. We shot together. I knew them, and I knew what a lot of them's weaknesses were. And so, you throw a little target that, and I'd have some of those guys after a shoot would come up and say, you fool me. And this is a master class guy. So you fool me. And a D guy ran it. I mean, it was just crazy. But I've always taken a lot of pride in setting very, very breakable, fair targets that because the last thing a target setter wants is for somebody to come up to him and say, that was insane. You should never throw anything like that, because you don't have to. And you're always trying to have to be cognizant of the sun. You don't. At some point, if you're throwing a certain elevation or target, it's going to be in the sun at some time during the day. So you got to know, as you go around that course, what direction are you throwing targets, and at what time of day, are these things going to be shot? Because sometimes in the morning they're in the sun, sometimes in the afternoon in the sun. And if you've ever got that, and also the time of year, don't put it up there where the sun's going to be. Put it somewhere lower. I mean, if you've got a northern orientation, you'll never look in the sun, because that's you just don't look in the sun facing north, and south is the other. But in the winter, January, February, you know, don't throw true south higher than about 45 degrees because you'll be looking in the sun in the afternoon. And you have to know that. So, little things like that matter. And, that all comes from having learned it. Okay. I've been doing this a long, long time, Justin. And don't get me wrong. I made my boo-boos, like a lot of us do. And you learn from them. And that's what makes it fun. I actually got invited. I'm the Ducks Unlimited Continental Shootout in Las Vegas. I'll be setting the targets for that, and they asked me to come do that, set everything that's going to be shot. So I can promise to all the listeners, if you come out there, you're going to get some fun, fair targets, and you won't be looking in sunshine. I actually designed those courses at Clark County Shooting Park. So I've got a pretty good idea of what they look like.
You've also designed stuff for some pretty famous people, which I find pretty cool.
Well, and you never know who the client's going to be. But I'm doing one now for the managing partner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I did one for a gentleman, Henry Kravis up in Meeker, Colorado, and Greg Norman actually bought that ranch. I think Greg's trying to sell it now, but what a beautiful place that was. If you go up in the mountains, you can just do some remarkable stuff. And it's you get phone calls. I mean, the Orvis company called me. They have a project over in Alabama called Purcell Farms. I designed that shooting operation for Orvis, and like I say, the one in Las Vegas, I did the Clark County one there, and just a bunch of other really nice places, and guys, a lot of private stuff for people in the hotel business and the development business and the movie business, and as an instructor, had a chance to work with a lot of, pretty famous people, a couple of prime ministers from countries, and, sports stars that people would certainly recognize, baseball, football people, movie stars, a lot of those folks. And it just comes from right place, right time, and, having the opportunity and really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. You've done that. And all the gun clubs that you've done, it's mind blowing that at the list, of gun clubs that you've designed. Mm-hmm. I think you set some pretty big tournaments too. I know you set World Sporting, right?
Yes, I did. Back when they had that organization, and I'll tell you what was funny, and a lot of people may remember, and she's still out there, Cindy Barton, who had the Texas Shooters Pages website that they have out there, where they provide all sorts of information to the Texas shooters about what's coming up. She came up to me after that event, and she looked at me in the eye and she said, "Have you ever thrown a straight target?" And I just laughed and I said, "I don't know that I did on purpose." Because I'm one of those guys. I'm going to throw you something that looks easy, and here's a rule of thumb for a lot of shooters. Guys that throw transition birds, if you can beat the transition, you beat the target setter. If you don't beat the transition, he typically beat you. And that's the thing. And so, you want to make the gun move. I mean, I'll throw a high target, and then, the second bird I'm going to throw under your armpit, so that you've got to move the gun. And, that will help a shooter showcase that he has got the ability to do it all. Because if you have to move the gun, you really and truly, are a shooter if you can do that. But I set a bunch of the Quail Unlimited shoots, a bunch of the Ducks Unlimited deal. Georgia State shoot 3 times, Zone 4, Zone 5, Zone 6 state championships in Indiana, Illinois, North Carolina. I mean, just on a Canadian national championship, including Canadian national FITASC, just lots of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I do miss doing that. I wouldn't mind doing it some more because I really enjoyed it. But we've got a lot of really good target setters out there now, and I kind of let those young guys do it. I mean, that's hard work if you really put your heart and soul into setting the right stuff. I promise you.
Yeah, I'm gonna back up just a little bit. You quit shooting at 93, and you went on into a coaching position, I guess you could call it,
right. Yes.
within your business. And weren't you one of the first level 3 instructors that the NSCA had?
I was actually in the second class of level 3s, and I would have been in the first class, but I was right in the middle of a big course design job, and I was having to install, at the time when that was going on, and I just told them, guys, I'll come to the second one, and back then they brought Roger Silcox in from England. Roger was a chief instructor for the Clay Pigeon Shooting Association there in England, and John Shima, who a really well-known skeet shooter, was a part of that. John Higgins, who at the time was the chief instructor for NSCA, and they made it really tough. I mean, I hate to say it, but they it was a pass-fail deal, and the first two, they failed 50% of the people.
Really?
Gave them a chance to take it again. And I won't even go into that, but there were some pretty well-known people that did not pass the first time.
I mean, what kind of questions do they ask to where you would fail?
It was your coaching ability. They would put you in coaching scenarios where, from somebody who really never shot a gun to somebody who was a true master class shooter, and you had to, it was an immediate fix, and you had to have flexibility. I mean, you couldn't say, okay, my way or the highway, you got to do it this way or else. You had to have the ability to teach all of the different shooting styles and understand those. But when you got put in there, they would give you a brutally hard target to teach on, and you better get it right. Because the level 3, when we first put that together, the level 3 was the pinnacle of the coaching fraternity as far as NSCA was concerned. And and there are a lot more level 3s now than there were, obviously. And
has the class gotten easier?
I don't know, because I don't teach. I taught a bunch of level 1s and level 2s. Right. But I never have been invited to be a part of teaching level 3. I actually probably fail more people in level 1 and level 2 than anybody that did it. Because I said, you know what, if I'm going to hand you a shingle and let you go out and collect money from people, you better be able to deliver goods. I'm sorry, I'm just that way. I mean, I hate being like that. And, I had some people look at me pretty funny when I told them, we're going to invite you to do this again, and here's why. But, to me, it's if you're going to accept money from people for services, that's a profession, and you're being expected to deliver, and that's that's just the way it is. And and I think by and large there are a lot of really good instructors out there now, and a lot of the guys that have not gone through the NSCA coaching program that are really, really good shooters. A lot of those guys are exceptional coaches. I mean, and they've learned. Yeah. They've learned to be flexible themselves, because everybody can't be copies of them. I mean, it's just impossible. I mean, those guys that are really good shots, for the most part, got remarkable vision, and they shoot 30, 40, 50,000 targets a year and all of that. And, they're just trying to help somebody that just to get a little bit better. And, so you've got to take a look at, okay, what did the student bring to the table? And, what he does, can he keep, and then tweak him from there. And that's what makes him get better.
You've mentioned that you were a wing shooter, and you started coaching wing shooting and clay shooting.
I did. My first coaching was at Forest City Gun Club in 1982. We had a big, tall dove tower there. And I, good Lord blessed me with some ability to shoot birds. And, we'd go out and shoot and, and I'm hitting all of these things. And, I had some guys that I'd shoot with every now and then say, can you teach me how to do that? And then, so I started doing that. And then I went through as a skeet shooter, went through a junior Olympic skeet shooting certification. The Olympic coach came over from Colorado Springs and put that on, and went through that program, and then when NSCA got involved in it, I went through the level 1, level 2, and level 3 programs. I just felt like that was the right thing for me to do, because knowledge is good. I learn something every time I coach a shooter, every time I teach. Right now, I learn something that I can use down the road, and that's after many thousands of hours of doing it. And I've been very fortunate. I've had a number of shooters that have gone on to win very lofty titles. So some of the ladies that I've worked with, early on, Ashley Hafley, when she was 12, I started coaching her. Alexander Wampler out in California, when she was 12 or 13, I started coaching her. And for the longest time, I was the only coach those girls had. And they went on to win world titles and national titles and be All-Americans and all of that. And still buddies with them. And they've gone on to grow up and now they're coaching. They're doing some coaching themselves. And so it's very satisfying that I played a small part in getting them to where they got in their competition.
Well, you're coaching. We had on Georgia Southern clay shooting team last week. I know you're the coach of that. I don't understand how you have enough time to do everything that you do.
Well, when you're self-employed, you make your own schedule.
Well, I see that, but you think of everything you got your hands in: hunting, clay shooting, designing courses, writing books, doing videos. You've been on TV. I mean, how do you put all that in one, like a schedule?
You know what? I'm very blessed. My wife has a job where she works at night.
Mm-hmm.
By choice, she wants to work at night, so that leaves me the keyboard on the computer to just sit here and look at it. And when I feel like banging keys, I do that. So then that frees up the days to go do things. We don't, the coach, coaching the Georgia Southern team, we only practice once a week.
Right.
And now we'll practice more than that when we're coming up on a major shoot. If we've got a major competition coming, yeah, we'll do a little bit more than that. But I'll be honest with you, Justin, and I'm very blessed to be able to recruit some really, really good kids to come be a part of that program. But most of those kids, including the ones that you talked to, they've been instructed. Right. They were instructed before Marty ever got involved in their program. I mean, what I do as an instructor for that team is I do more tweaking than I do actually hardcore instruction. Because first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to recruit kids that don't need a whole lot of instruction. I mean, I want, when you get at the college level, and we're not doing this for participation pins. I mean, I told them, I said, guys, if we're going to do this, we're doing this to win. And, so I try to recruit kids that already know how to win. That's very important. And we have a feeder program through the recreational side of the clay target team there at Southern, and kids can come out and try out, and we'll work with them to get them better. In fact, some of the kids on the team actually instruct some of those kids. So, I mean, we're growing it. We've only been doing it a couple of years, and we've had remarkable success. I mean, the three of them just won the Junior U.S. Open collegiate team for the second straight year. We've had the team 2 years, and they've won a whole bunch of stuff. 2 national divisional championships. They won the Junior U.S. Open 2 years in a row, and it just goes on and on. But and it's because those kids like each other, they trust each other, and and they've got each other's backs when somebody's having a bad day, and that's what makes a team. The kids have to like each other, and they have to have a common goal of being the best that they can be, and that's what we put together there, and that's why we've been successful.
It's pretty interesting to me at how good they are, and how new the team is to be as good as they are.
And what's crazy, and what we're talking sporting here. These kids have got to be able to shoot 100 straight in skeet. They've got to be able to shoot 98, 99, or 100 straight in trap. And then they've got to be able to shoot 95 plus in sporting. That's not easy to do, because they've got to be able to do all three of those at a very, very high level. And that's what makes the team good, because when you go to the college competitions, you've got to shoot all of those, including, and now, we shoot super sporting, double skeet, and double trap. And the double trap was the thing that just drove everybody nuts, because these kids down here in the South don't shoot that. I mean, we had to learn to shoot it, and we're still learning. And I'll be honest with you, if we have anything that's the fly in the ointment, double trap would be it. But they're getting better and better and better, and they know that they've got to put in time to learn that, because that's another 100 target event that counts toward the national championship. And when we go shoot, it's 600 targets.
Yeah, 6
different events, 600 targets, and they all count. Every target counts. I mean, it's just like when I'm coaching, the most important target's the next one. What you've already done, you can't do anything about, but you can do something about the next one. And that's the mindset that we're trying to get with these guys. I mean, if you miss, you just got to leave it.
Right.
Because every target counts. You can't be mad and miss the next one because you're worried about what just happened. That doesn't help you.
Right. That's right.
That just puts you further behind the 8 ball.
What's the difference in teaching someone to shoot clays versus teaching someone to shoot birds?
And I tell everybody when I'm doing a lesson, I'll ask, do you want to be what do you want from me? How can I help you? Because I teach a lot of wing shooters on clay courses, and then I teach a lot of clay shooters on clay courses. And the big difference from the wing shooting side is I tell people, look, what we try to do is replicate the shot that you would have in the field if you're wanting to use sporting clays to learn to be a better bird shooter. The only time we can really replicate the bird is at the time it's being shot, because it's going to come off the trap at full speed and slow down, where a bird takes off from a dead stop and speeds up. The exact opposite. So, the biggest thing with them is to actually get them to understand that, one, if you're shooting clays and birds, if I'm walking up behind pointing dogs, I don't have the gun down on my hip. When that dog goes on point, I'm going to bring that gun up right up under my shoulder, just like I'm getting ready to shoot a really fast sporting clays target that's going to take off. And I'm going to look at where that dog's eyes are looking and where that nose is pointed, because that's where the bird is. I mean, his body may be sideways, but you don't look at where the body's pointed. You look at where the head's pointed, because that's where the bird is. He's got him in his nose. Mm-hmm. And so I'll get that gun in position, so when that flush takes place, I'm ready for it. Now, what I tell people on dove shooting is, the more a target crosses in front of you, and we learn this in clays, the more lead it's going to take to hit it. That's why if you stand on a skeet field, Station 4 takes more lead than Station 3 or 5, because it's a greater angle. It's a true 90-degree angle, and a true 90-degree angle of any presentation takes more lead than any other angle at the same speed and distance. And so, you have to understand that. So when I teach these dove guys that are big dove shooters, first thing they want to do is, somebody told them, well, you've got to shoot it like flushing quail, shoot everything swing through from behind. Well, you go out in a dove field, these guys start shooting these 35, 40, 45-yard doves, trying to shoot them by swinging the gun from behind. That bird takes so much lead, there's no way to ever get there. So I'll take that swing through guy and move him more to a pull away or a modified pull away, instead of trying to say, okay, you're going from swinging behind to go to maintain lead, which really is confusing. Because, you're making the same move with the gun if you're shooting swing through or pull away. You're just making it from a different insertion point. And so, that's what I have to do when I'm trying to teach a different type of shot presentation with bird shooters or clay shooters.
Yeah. Talk about your hunting just a little bit, and that led into your TV shows that you've done, which I find pretty interesting.
It did. I started just like most of the people that shoot clays or shoot birds or whatever. My dad got me started. My grandfather was kind of a local trick shooter down here in South Georgia. He was remarkable with a rifle, but he wasn't a hunter. The only thing he'd ever shoot out that was live game is, he had a bunch of pecan trees out in his backyard, and my grandmother would say, Hank, those squirrels are out there, getting those pecans, and you need to take care of that. Well, he didn't want to shoot a squirrel. He would go shoot the limb out from under the squirrel. He'd get on the little limb running and stop, and he'd cut the limb out from under him with his 22 where the limb would break and they'd drop, just to have some fun. But my dad got me started hunting, and I really enjoyed it. And the duck hunting was a thing that really I loved a lot. And I'll be honest with you, Justin, when I was a young guy, I was a terrible shot. I mean, I didn't really have anybody to introduce any concepts to me about what to do. I had no clue. I mean, I really didn't. I mean, every day said, you got to lead it. You got to lead it. You've got to lead it. And I didn't know what the heck that was. And finally one day, when in my early teens, I was out with an older cousin, out at a little wood duck spot that we had. And here comes this wood duck flying by, and he was probably close to 40 yards. And I said, okay, you said I had to lead it. So I threw that shotgun so far in front of that bird, there is no possible way. And that thing rolled out of the sky. And I said, you have got to be kidding me. And from that point forward, it was pretty easy, because the concept was that's what they're talking about. So I started doing a lot of that and shot a lot of birds. And when I got to Cherokee Rose, my TV career, I got a call from a production company and said, we want to bring a guy over that needs some shooting lessons. Can you handle that? I said, sure. So it turns out it was Steve Bartkowski, who played quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Mm-hmm. And Steve had retired and was hosting a TV show called Suzuki Great Outdoors that was on ESPN. And, I just was inquisitive. My degree from Georgia Southern, I graduated from Southern in 1974, which just tells you how older of a guy I am. But, I asked her, I had my degree was in public relations, and I said, and I did a little bit of media work, and I said, where do you want to go? And we happened to have a duck club out in Arkansas, and I knew some other people. I was a contest duck caller, was lucky. I won the Georgia State Championship 3 times, finished in the top 10 in the world 3 times, top 5 in the world duck calling championship. And so I said, would you like to go to Arkansas and shoot some ducks in the flooded timber? Oh, yes. So we arranged it. And when I went out there, he had Rick Barry, the basketball player, was his guest. And Steve was a delightful guy, but he wasn't a wing shooter. That wasn't his deal. He really had worked more on bow hunting and stuff like that. And so, shooting something stationary and shooting something moving where you've got to actually miss it to hit it was a pretty foreign concept. And so, I shot a lot of birds on that trip. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call and they asked me if I had some flexibility in my schedule, running Cherokee Rose. And I said, well, I've got a really good staff, and I'll talk to the owner and And he told me, yeah, go. Said it'll be good. And so I wound up. They wanted to hire me as the designated shooting pro on that show. So I said, where do I sign up for that? And that gave me an opportunity to. Well, the first trip that I ever made to Argentina was because of that show, and I've been to Argentina now 17 times. And and then we just went all over the place, went all over the world, and then I wound up getting together with Bruce Scott that owns Sunrise Productions. A lot of people that listen here have bought Sunrise Production videos. Bruce and I did a show called Shotgun Journal, and we did that for 9 years, and that gave us a chance. We went all over. Went to Africa, we went to Europe, we went all over South America, all over Canada, and then all over the United States. I mean, it was just fabulous. So, those things, were something that I loved, and and I had the opportunity to shoot a lot. I mean, I've shot a lot of wild birds in my lifetime, a lot, and a lot of it is, one, the good Lord blessed me with a little bit of ability, but two, I had the opportunity. The television show really gave me an opportunity to shoot a lot of birds and have a great time with a lot of memories.
Yeah, are you still doing TV, or are you pretty much done?
No,
with it?
I still do a little bit of guest appearances.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it myself anymore. I've gotten to the point that I'm old enough, and there's so many guys doing it now. That I've just kind of backed away from doing that, and I'm going to probably go out and do some little 1 and 2 minute little tips out on some clay courses that I'll start putting on Facebook, and I've got a Marty Fischer YouTube channel, Marty Fischer Wing and Clay Nation YouTube channel that's got some old videos on it, but people can watch the old Shotgun Journal shows. Just by going to YouTube and type in Shotgun Journal TV, and there are a number of those old shows in there, and I'll tell you, there's some good stuff there. I mean, we had some remarkable times. That's just some fabulous lodges, and Bruce and I always tried to make it educational and not just two guys out shooting birds. We wanted the viewer to, when they got done with the show, to say, you know what, I actually picked up something that I can use today. And we always tried to do that within the show.
What do you think your favorite kind of hunting is?
I am really a waterfowl guy
mm-hmm.
who loves to turkey hunt. Two different times of year. So, and Bruce, in the shotgun book that I wrote, Bruce did the forward for that. And it's a big laugh in the last paragraph he wrote. He says, I really can't imagine why here's a guy who's one of the best wing shots probably in the entire world, mm-hmm. who gets off on shooting something standing still at 30 yards. He said, that just never makes any sense to me.
Yeah.
But we just had a remarkable time doing that show. It was a lot of fun, but the waterfowl, because of I'm a call guy. I love to call turkeys. I love to call ducks. I love to call game. And I think that's probably why those two are my favorites.
Yeah, calling ducks, man, that's a talent right there. I do a seminar. I get invited to do seminars at outdoor shows and things like that. And I did one, the difference between calling ducks and working ducks. And believe me, there's a difference, because anybody that can make a quack on a duck call can make one come within 50 or 60 yards. The question is, can you make him come to 20 yards? That's the difference. And, so I do a little seminar deal on that, and talk about how to read the flight of the birds in the air. Just like when I'm coaching, how do you read what the target's doing in the air? Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to know, what's that target doing when you actually plan to shoot at it? That's what you got to set up everything for.
Right.
I don't care what it does off the trap. I don't care what it does after I shoot. What's it doing when I'm actually pulling the trigger? That's what I'm setting the gun up for, so I can get the gun there as comfortably as possible, and then get to the second bird with a plan of attack on exactly where to look and where to push the gun to make it happen. Those are the little things that make a difference between good shooters and great shooters. You know, if you watch the great guys, all the ones that you said, man, I wish I could shoot like that guy. They do it exactly the same every time. And you've had a bunch of them on the show. Exactly the same every time. And there's a lot to be said for that.
Now, let me ask you this. If you do a lot of things, if you had to pick one thing that you're the best at, what would it be?
My gut feeling would tell me I probably, well, in terms of shooting, I'm really good at shooting birds. And I'm pretty damn good with a duck call. And so,
sounds like,
you know, because I worked at it religiously. My mother used to run me out of the house with that. I'd blow that duck call, and she said, "You need to take that noise somewhere other than here." But it was a passion, you know, and what you're going to be good at is what you have a passion for, because that's what you're going to devote the time to. And you know, and you know, and when I'm coaching shooters, I'll ask them, how good do you want to be? And depending on what they tell me, you know, we go shoot, or we have a lot further conversation about what it's going to take to be that good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks don't realize what it actually takes. I mean, we're all in awe of those guys that we see that shoot, that are remarkable shooters, but we have no idea of how much time and effort and dedication they put into getting to that position.
Yeah. It's not easy. That's for sure.
No, it's not.
It's not just, I'm going to shoot birds today, so I'm going to go out here and shoot a limit. That don't just happen.
It's not that easy. And I mean, you've got to find a way to be totally consistent. And, you know, when with the bird shooting, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you've got to be able to, you look at the speed and the angle and the distance, and you've got to make an immediate decision on what the picture is to make that happen. And that just comes from doing it a lot. And I mean, I even still, from a bird shooting perspective, I still do gun mount practice every now and then, just at home. Because if you miss the gun mount, you've missed the shot.
Well, Marty, out there on the dove field, you get 3 shells. So I just kind of figure out, hopefully by the 3rd shell, I figure out where it needs to be.
Well, one thing on the dove, if he's coming in straight overhead or crossing left or crossing right, find a way to put the gun out in front of him, because, you know, you're not going to hit him if you don't.
That's right. So as far as your business is concerned, what is your favorite thing to do? Is it to coach? Is it to design a course, set a course? What would you say be your favorite thing to do?
And in all honesty, the reason I still do all of those things is because I love both of those that you just mentioned. I love working with shooters to where all of a sudden the light comes on. You know, you've said something, you've worked with them, you really push them to all of a sudden it's like, that is the big smile on the face. There's no money worth that. I mean, I do it for free for that big smile, because that's what it's all about. But in the course design, I absolutely love course design, because it gives me an opportunity to be creative, to take a piece of land and look out there what God put there and make it better. And because on every clay course that I design, I want to try to find 1 or 2 or 3 or even more marquee type shots where people remember them, where they say you should see that shot. Man, that is something special. And you know, there's an opportunity to do that on every piece of property, even the ones that are absolutely flat. You know, people ask me all the time, you know, what are you doing flat ground? I said, well, you have to understand, I come from a place where it's flat. I said, the tallest hills where I live have ants crawling on them. I said, so what we have to do in flat ground is we have to find a way to create terrain, and we do that with berms or elevated platforms or whatever. But when you've got a little bit of terrain to work with, that's the greatest tool that a course designer can have, or a target setter, because you can utilize that terrain and make those targets really look like they're doing something that they're not. You know, good target setting is all about illusion and making them fair. You know, I don't want some guy to say that's impossible.
Yeah, never
be.
I shot a charity shoot one time in South Georgia somewhere. I just thought about this, and I think you set that course. I think you were there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where it was at. Crowder Foods or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I designed the Crowder course. I designed all of their. That's a private place that I designed, and we actually have access to take the Southern team over there too.
Yeah.
But depending on when you set it, I set that thing, and they never changed it for a long time, and the darn trees kept growing. And so, they finally called me and said, Marty, can you come back and reset this? So I don't know exactly, Justin, when it was that you shot it, but there was a time when some of the targets that I had set, because that was a pine plantation, and there were a lot of pines around there. Well, those pines that were 40 feet high all of a sudden became 60 feet high, and the target were a little bit different. So we did need to change them, but that's a really pretty course, and you can get some really nice shots there. There's a lot. I mean, I think if I could leave just a message for folks, really go out and enjoy this sport. Enjoy the clays, enjoy the birds, enjoy the people. And if you're going to take it serious, make sure you put in the amount of time necessary to be good enough for that serious thought that you've got in your mind of how good you want to be. Because if you don't put the time in, you're going to be disappointed in it. So the best thing is just go out and have a good time. Enjoy the folks. And the other thing that I do want to say, I've always been a real stickler on gun clubs, being kept tidy and things being picked up and all of that. As a shooter, try to police behind yourself. I mean, it really matters. I mean, I know when I do gun clubs, one of the things when I have my consulting work with them on running the business, you want people when they show up to feel special. When they drive into that gate, they want to feel like I'm the most important person here. And, thank you for making everything pretty. Thank you for keeping things picked up. A pretty golf course is more fun to play on than one out in a hayfield. And a pretty clay course that, looks like the owner actually cares is a lot more fun to shoot on than one that doesn't. And that's just one of my pet peeves, having been in this business for what is now 32 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, if I could, one of these days when Marty's not around anymore, I hope people will remember that, because it is important.
Well, Marty, I know you have things to do besides sit here and talk to me all night, but I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story and talking about what you've done, what you're going to do, and good luck in everything that you are doing. And we're going to look for that Georgia Southern team to get on with it here shortly.
Yes, well, we sure hope so. And Justin, it's been a pleasure, and you keep up the good work, my friend. I mean, the message that you deliver is a good one. I mean, this is what shooters need to hear from all of these folks that are out in the business and making things happen, because this is something that we all love. And, we want to see it continue. We want to, I want my grandkids to be able to go out and have the same enjoyment that I had all of these years. And I know a lot of folks that are listening feel the same way. And I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about the history and my background. And I just want everybody to know, this is a game that we can all love. And, when I see you guys out on the course, come up and say, hey, love to see you, love to hear your stories, because there's some the good thing about this game, you don't find many. I can say this: you don't find many buttholes.
No, you don't.
Most of us are pretty darn genuine people, and that's what makes it great.
That's right. Well, hey man, appreciate you. Appreciate your time, like I said, and
okay, buddy, you betcha.